welcome to Mystere Creations. As usual, I'm your host, AJ, and today I'm speaking with Topher Henry about the religion Asatru. We cover a lot of ground in this interview. I'll leave a list of links in the show notes for you should you wish to learn more. Please enjoy. Welcome to Mystere Creations.
Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. I'm Topher W. Henry. I am the president of the Asatru community, and we are a nearly 6,000 member community that is worldwide. We're in, I think, last count, we're like over 56 different countries. And here in the United States, we have almost 2,000 members that are active duty in the military as well. And as the president, I basically am in charge of just helping to further and grow our community. And one of my main focuses right now is building a Hof, or a temple, here on my property in Indiana.
Okay. What part of Indiana are you in?
It's Friendship, Indiana, which is literally a super small town. We have 52 current residents, or 53 now. We had somebody move in, so and it's actually a small town I grew up in, and then moved back here 35 years later. But it's a really nice rural community. We're down in a valley with a river that runs through it. Well, they call it a creek, but it's 98 miles long. I guess it has to be 100 miles to be a river, but it's a really nice area. I'm really happy to be back here. It's in southeast Indiana, basically, all the way down at the tip.
Okay. What is Asatru?
So Asatru is actually, you break the word down into two words that are Norse, Asa and Tru. Asa referring to the Aesir, or the Aesir gods of the Nordic traditions, and Tru meaning actually true. So the term literally means being true to the Aesir. So followers of Asatru, or Asatru, are people that follow the beliefs of the Norse Germanic traditions.
Okay. And Odin would be the head god of the pantheon?
Correct. Odin, Thor, and all of those types.
Okay. What is a blot?
Blot or bloat, that is another Norse term which translate to blood. And what a bloat is a ritual that we perform in which a sacrifice of some sort is given to the deity or the god that you're trying to call on. Now, we don't typically slaughter animals or anything like that anymore, but we consider a sacrifice to be, we offer up plates of food to our gods. We offer them mead, honey, wine, that type of thing. So those are considered sacrifices as well. But that's what a bloat is, and we have 12 different ones, basically one for each month, that are performed. 3 of which are based on harvest times throughout the year, and then of course there's ones like Yule, which around what everyone else would call Christmas time. We have our 12 days of Yule, which is where the 12 days of Christmas came from.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit about your Yule practice?
So we actually do a different ritual every night, starting typically on the 12th of December, going through to the 24th. Some start later, but it's all kind of depends on what point of the equator that you're at, because it depends also on when the first full moon in that month starts. Some start on the first full moon and then go for 12 or 13 days from that point. And every night, each ritual is a blessing to a different god, leading up to the final night where you do a blessing to Odin. And but throughout that week, there's blessings to many different gods. There's blessings to the ancestors that we do throughout that. But yeah, it's an involved week, and it's really considered to be our biggest holiday of the year. And there's still countries around the world that, that's a huge event that goes on every year, like in Iceland and Norway, Sweden, all those countries like that have huge events for it. And I'll be kicking off the second annual live from the Hof this year, doing the Bloat every night live online. And then people that are local can come join me as well here too. So
that's excellent.
I'll have that. Yeah.
With Yule, my family is Anglo-Saxon predominantly.
Okay.
So our Yule tradition basically was a Yule log. You kept that burning through the night, and for I think about 3 days. But the more I learn about Yule, the more I like the tradition. It's a very positive tradition.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we use the Yule log as well. Typically, like, I put 3 candle holes on a log, and I light candles on the log, and then at the end, on the 13th night, I actually burn that entire log in a fire pit.
That's great.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what symbol is, or some?
Sumbel.
Sumbel.
Yeah, it's another type of ritual, and one of my friends is he's our lead ambassador out of the Minnesota, or I'm sorry, Wisconsin area. He likes to say that I went to a Asatru ritual and a drinking party broke out, because that's basically what a Sumbel is. We make an offering. We get the drinking horn, and the drinking horn gets passed around 3 times. And each time that is passed through, the first time, the tradition is to either make an announcement or boast about something that you've done. Then another round, you can say honor to a specific god. And then on a third round, you can say honor to an ancestor or something like that. But yeah, that's basically what a Sumbel is just a gathering of heathens and passing around the drinking horn. And it's kind of tradition to boast about yourself and be known in heathen communities. In the age of the Vikings, one of the most important thing to them was to be known and to be remembered, and kind of a way that we carry that tradition.
It's oral history, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
I've done something like that in Nova Scotia. Only we called it a stumble.
Okay. Well, that's probably what happens afterwards, for sure.
Exactly. It was basically, you sit around a fire, drinking, telling stories, and then try to stagger home afterwards. Some people didn't make it.
Absolutely.
So in doing your rituals, do you deal with the Elder Futhark at all?
I do use the Elder Futhark. I can read and write it uh, without any assistance or resource. I unfortunately can't read Norse, so I can't just go up to a rune, an original runestone and read it.
Okay.
Just simply because those aren't written in English. But if they were, I could read them. Um, one of the ways in which I use them most commonly is by creating bind runes,
Okay.
and I'll take typically at least three, maybe up to four or five, depending on what I'm attempting to do. But I use the runes, stack them on top of each other to create a new image or a new symbol, basically using those runes. And based off of what the meanings of the runes are, I can basically like cast that out into the universe.
Okay.
Or if I'm using it in a ritual, I could do something like that. Something I've done in the past is actually written somebody's name, their last name, their family name in runes, created a bind rune for them, and then as an honor to them, you burn the rune as part of the ritual. So that's mainly how I've used them.
Okay.
One thing that I think a common misconception that is still out there quite a bit is that the Vikings used the Elder Futhark, and that is not exactly true, because those were from the years prior to 700 AD, which would be the beginning of the Viking Age, or 800 AD, and most of the actual Vikings used the younger Futhark,
Okay.
which I'm still learning how to use.
Well, my experience with the Elder Futhark, I interviewed Einar Selvik,
Nice.
and his interpretation of the runes is really interesting. He basically he looks at the nature of the rune itself, and he's really gone far into the anthropology of it.
Absolutely.
Have you found new or adapted any new discoveries from archaeologists to kind of better interpret the runes?
I'm constantly searching and looking for more information, and the good thing is that they're constantly finding new things. I mean, just what was it, last week they got an actual date for when the Vikings were in Nova Scotia, or North America, which was, I think it was like 1010 or something like that.
Okay.
Based off an archaeological find there from a tree that was used that had a ring in it that represented, I think it was a meteor strike or something that caused a burning or something, or ash.
Okay.
But they were actually able to say they were here in 1010.
That's excellent.
Things like that, we have to look at, and as new knowledge comes about, we have to, I think, absorb as much of that as we can. And one of the things I mentioned, that I'm still learning the younger Futhark. I've studied the elder Futhark for probably close to 30 years now, but it was until recently that I had someone that is considered to be a master of all things runic arts and things like that, Lars Magnar Enochson. He said, the younger Futhark is what was used for magic and for manifesting things. because it was actually more of like a secretive version. There's only 16 letters in it, and which makes it very hard to translate, which is why it was used more often in magical rites and things like that. My current understanding.
So the Elder Futhark are kind of like a sigil.
Yes, each one could be considered a sigil in of itself, and that's, they speak of them being like that in the Havamal, that that they are. Each one has their own life and its own energy, and it's not necessarily good and it's not necessarily evil, and they're not necessarily going to tell you what you want to hear.
They'll tell you what you need.
Exactly.
When I look at sigils, well, the image that you probably see on your computer is actually a sigil that I painted after doing a thelemic meditation on Lamb.
Excellent.
And it ended up in me seeing a Fibonacci spiral.
Awesome.
And I made connections afterwards and still am. It's kind of become an ongoing ritual that has taken on a part and life of itself, which is why we're doing this. The podcast came into being because I needed to learn, and the best way to learn is to talk to people.
Absolutely.
Have you found in dealing with people from different parts of your community that they bring their own richness to it?
Yeah, and that's one thing that I've really pushed since becoming the president of the community, is that no matter what type of ritual that you're doing, no matter the types of items that you have, ritual tools and stuff like that, what's more important than anything is your intent. So, you don't have to have $1,000 worth of statues and, things like that to speak to the gods, or to, cast out into the universe your intentions. So I think it's always about intent. And when we are a Norse pagan heathen community, but we do allow people in our community that are, that follow other paths as well, and are here to learn more about Asatru and things like that. And that's how I found the community to start with. I've been a member since 2015.
Okay.
And prior to joining the Asatru community, I, for more than 25 years, followed a Celtic pagan path, and was a druid that followed the horned god Carnunos.
Excellent.
And I still very connected to the horned god, and I still do rituals to him. And my personal belief is that I feel that all gods are culturally, they're the same gods.
Yes.
But just seen differently from different cultural perspectives is basically what I tend to believe. And there's, I think, a lot of evidence for that out there, with so many different, every different religion has a god of thunder, and there's always the god of the woods and stuff like that. I think they're just different cultural versions of the same beings. So I've never had a problem with combining practices, and I do that as well with my wife, who she's Wiccan, she's a witch, and we combine practices all the time, rituals with her, and I don't think there's any problem with that.
There shouldn't be. My own research into the spiral led me to Sumeria.
Absolutely.
And the Sumerian gods. And then I found connection between
like the Anunnakis?
The Anunnaki, particularly Enki.
Okay.
Enki is the god of magic, but I found connection to Odin through him, yeah. And working with those archetypes, it comes down to archetypes of the individual gods. They kind of like thunder. Odin is very learned. He the elder Futhark, he sacrificed himself on the tree of life to gain access to the runes.
Right.
So that speaks greatly to me. And speaking of Cernunnos, my wife dedicated our altar to Cernunnos.
Awesome.
So this is another situation where this journey has kind of led me to you, and there's a connection to Cernunnos here. Synchronicity.
I am a firm believer in everything happens for a reason too. So
yeah. When you're looking at that in modern history, because Asatru is considered to be a new upkeep of the old religion, how much survived from the early part of the millennium did it survive?
My understanding is that a lot of it survived, and I base that solely off of having met with and spoken to members of the Asatru Fellowship in Iceland.
Okay.
Iceland is like the one place in the world in which what became Asatru never stopped being practiced. It was officially outlawed until 1972, but there were still people practicing that religion in Iceland and in Norway and Sweden, but not to the level which it continued to happen in Iceland. One of the things that one of the members told me there is that they have an unbroken line of religious leaders going all the way back to the beginning, to when there was first Vikings landed there in Iceland. So a lot of the rituals, at least the times of the year and what they were about, survived.
Okay.
How much or the actual ritual itself, in different cases, there's descriptions of specific rituals that survived that they can be found in the Icelandic Eddas and in Grammaticus's tale of the Vikings, which he wrote after following them in combat and seeing how they fight and seeing how they do their rituals. He was actually one of the first that talked about the use of runes. And so there is, I think, a fair amount of what we use today that does come from, as original source as can be, especially considering that most of it was up until, maybe 1100 was all word of mouth. It was,
Yeah.
there was nothing written down until, um, scribes started doing that in the late 900s, early thousands in Iceland.
When the Romans brought reading and writing.
Yeah.
Or the would have been the church at that point.
Yeah, it was the church at that point.
Next question is kind of a sensitive one. The rise of racism and the adoption of Norse and Asatru symbolism to that movement has been a problem. Actually, in researching Asatru, the first thing that came up is how to deal with racists adopting your religious practice.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
It's the bane of our existence, basically. We, the Asatru community, we allow anyone into the faith to practice with us, regardless of sexual preference, race, background, and it doesn't matter. All that we ask that you're not a racist piece of crap and you treat people nice. We vet our members as best we can through a question answer thing when they sign up.
Yeah.
Obviously that's leaving people to being honest, and we do have to root out individuals eventually through other means. But it's something we fight against constantly. Every religion has its extremists, and groups like the AFA are definitely our Taliban, as it were.
Yeah.
Because they don't allow anyone in their group unless you're of Northern European Caucasian background. One of the things that we've done as a community to fight against that is just this past summer, we enacted a thing that we called the shield wall, which wasn't our term. We use it.
Yeah.
But our shield wall gathered, and with members from the Asatru community and members of a large kindred in the Midwest, the Wolves of the North Kindred, gathered and went to Murdoch, Minnesota, where the AFA is building their third temple in the United States, and protested there against them. Spoke to a lot of people about, how exclusionary they are and how racist they are, and stuff like that. We did a lot of good there, but the best thing that came out of that was I had a group contact me from the Guardian magazine, and they did a short documentary on, it's titled Inside the Last All-White Church in America. And they interviewed members of the AFA, specifically those there in Murdoch, and then also interviewed myself and members of my community and other like-minded heathens at a large festival that I go to every year here in Indiana, and got some really good exposure for that, not only for our community as being the bright shining star of Asatru that allows anyone into our group, and then also shining that light on the AFA, which they don't want, showing that they are exclusionary, and they may smile to your face, but behind closed doors, they're talking about why people aren't worthy to be in that room and worship with them.
See, that to me, because I've studied history and looked into the migration of humanity, the native people of Europe were dark-haired, dark-complexioned,
Right.
and then people from the West moved in, and that's when
Right.
you see the intrusion of fair-skinned people.
Exactly.
And then there's some mixing, which is why we have what we have today
Right.
in the area. And it continues because people migrate. They don't stay in one place.
No.
And look at Nova Scotia. I think there's an island. I think it was PEI.
Mhm.
There was a group of natives that mixed with the Norse people that
Oh,
immigrated there. And when the Spanish came over, they thought they were devils
because they have blue.
they were 6 foot tall, blonde hair, blue eyed, and red skinned, and they went, "What?
Yeah. What is happening?
This doesn't work."
Yeah.
But throughout history, we have things like that.
Absolutely. Well, and from a standpoint of the religion itself, too, the way it was explained to me, which I continue to pass on to as many people as I can, and again, it goes back to the Asatru Fellowship in Iceland, because that was one of the first things they asked me. Well, do you allow racists in your group? And I had to go through that whole thing, and he said that it makes absolutely no sense for us to not allow different races of people to worship with us because our gods are different races. There's the Aesir, there's the Vanir. Those are two completely different races of gods. Mm-hmm. There's the Roker, the giants, there's elves, there's dwarves, all different types of beings. So if I have gods of multiple races, why would I tell someone of another race here on Midgard that you can't worship them with me? That makes no sense.
It's true. True. And the more people you have, the more traditions come in, and looking at Aoife. Aoife is the reason we're able to sit here and talk.
Absolutely.
It's literally the computing system that in computers is based off of the divination system of Aoife, which shocked me when I found that out this year. It was, whoa, okay, this is cool. A 12,000-year-old religion is the reason we can talk, which is beautiful. We'll be right back. How does a person go about joining your community?
www.theasatrucommunity.org/join.
Okay.
Basically, there's a form online that you have to fill out. We have questions in there that we ask. Like I said, we try to root out people. And one of the ones that we have in there to root out the racists is, do you feel that anyone should be allowed to practice Asatru regardless of their race, sexual proclivities or anything else? And some people are actually dumb enough to answer that in a way that, no, I think that it should just be Northern European people. And we said, well, thank you for trying, but we're going to pass on you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an obvious question where if you answer no, there's going to be a problem.
Yeah, that's a real good red flag for us there.
Yeah. Are there books and other resources that you can suggest for a person just starting to practice?
Sure. We publish. We have our version of the Havamal, which is a study version where you can learn three different types of, or three different translations of it. And I have them all comes from one of the Icelandic Eddas. That's a really good one. It's considered to be the words of Odin. So it has like 160 some stanzas. It details his time hanging from the tree and learning of the runes, and gives you information on everything, on how to be a good person, to being a good host, to always keeping a knife at your back. So there's that. I could recommend anything published by the Troth, which is another Asatru organization here in the United States. They have published some amazing books, and Hail to Odin for Kjeldolf Gunderson, who just recently passed away, and hopefully is spending his time well with the gods now. But anything published by the Troth, they have the Troth Volume 1 and 2, which goes over everything from, definitions of each individual gods to rituals and bloats. And really, really good books. But there's a lot of good books out there. I would just suggest people that, research the author a little bit before you buy. There's a lot of stuff that's still out there that are written by people that, had racist beliefs.
It's true.
So you have to kind of keep an eye out for that. That's one thing that we're actually working on right now to add to our website, which is a whole list of books that we recommend to read and ones we recommend you stay away from, because we get those questions quite often.
Are there any representatives of your community in Canada that we could talk to?
I could, definitely give you names of a few people that you might. We actually have 2 members of our board that are based in Canada.
Okay.
So, I could definitely via email or reach out to them. But we do have we have quite a few members in Canada.
Excellent.
We do have a lead ambassador there too as well. That he does. We have ambassadors. We try to have one in just about every state that has monthly gatherings and does rituals and things like that as well.
Yeah.
And it gets the word out there about the Asatru community.
Are there any works that you wish to promote that you're doing right now?
A couple things that I'm working on that we should have ready for printing right after the first of the year. One, as I'm working on a new translation of the story of the Icelandic Yule lads. It's going to be fully illustrated and actually going to publish it in a comic book format, and possibly also in a coloring book format for kids. And we're also working on gathering all of our different rituals and bloats and putting them in a bloat book that we're going to publish, and have rituals that can be done on a monthly basis, including specific rituals like wedding rituals and rites of naming and burial rituals and things like that as well. But that's the main things we're working on right now, other than spreading frith, which we continue to try to do.
With specific rituals, is there specific methods and practices to doing a ritual for your group?
We have, what we do is we kind of break it down into like every one of our ritual, we have a hallowing rite that starts it off, and everything that I'm telling you now is what I do personally. We don't say this is how you have to do it, but I begin by doing a hallowing ritual, which is a hammer rite. I've taught myself how to perform that in Old Norse, so I actually perform that in Old Norse to begin any ritual. After that, we invite whichever gods that we're honoring, or if it's the ancestors, we invite them to our circle. And then from there, we'll discuss specifics of the actual ritual, whether it's, if it's a seasonal thing, we would discuss the meaning of the seasonal ritual. And there's always drinking, passing of the horn, and making an offering to the gods. And then typically our rituals, when we're gathering in person, are always finished with a feast. So at the end of our ritual, when we've completed it, closed the circle, and thanked the gods and our ancestors for being there, everyone gathered goes and we have a feast afterwards. So that's community is a big part of our religion. So, that is a very important part of it as well.
Without the people, you don't have a religion.
Absolutely. I'm just out there standing and talking by myself, and nobody wants that.
That's all I have for you today. Okay. Thank you very much for coming on with me.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Check out the asatrucommunity.org. This is where you can find the information that was discussed in this interview about the books and joining the community. Again, I'd like to thank Topher Henry for coming on. It was great to interview you. What did you think about this episode? Please let us know in the comments. Mystere Creations is an archival podcast. You can find us at mysterecreations.com. That is MISTEYRE creations.com. And on all other platforms, including YouTube. Thank you again for joining us, and take care.